Plant movements. Classification of movements. Movements may be broadly classified into two types, that is, movement of locomotion. Here you will see movements of motile individual organisms and their organs. And second is movements of curvature, that is, movement of plant organs, and the plant is fixed in the soil. Movement of curvature may be of two types: movements of growth caused due to the differential growth, and movements of variation caused due to change in turgor. Movements of locomotion and of curvature may be either autonomic, which is of course spontaneous, and paratonic, that is of course which is governed by the external stimulus. Paratonic movements are caused by external factors. Autonomic is spontaneous. It is due to some internal factors. Autonomic movements of locomotion. Ciliary movement. These movements are caused by the cilia and flagella, and example is Chlamydomonas, zoospores, motile gametes, etc. Amoeboid movement. Naked protoplasm of the myxomycetes show amoeboid movement. Cyclosis. It is the streaming movement of protoplasm and occurs either by rotation or circulation. In rotation, the protoplasm moves in one direction. An example is cells of the hydrilla. In circulation, the protoplasm moves in different direction. Example is staminal hair of Tradescantia. Paratonic movements of locomotion. These are known as tectic movements. Such movements occur in free-swimming organisms. The direction of the movement is determined by the direction of the stimulus. So in tectic, it is the direction of the movement which determines the direction of the stimulus. These movements may be phototactic, that is movement in response to light, chemotactic, movement in response to chemical substances, and thermotactic, movements in response to heat. Autonomic movements of growth. Nastic movement. These movements are shown by bifacial organs like sepals, petals, and they are of two types. A. Epinastic. These are caused by more growth on the upper surface than on the lower surface. Such movements result in opening of vegetative and floral buds, circinateeixis of the fern leaf. B. Hyponastic. These are caused by more growth on the lower surface than on the upper surface. Such movements result in the closing of vegetative and floral buds and uncoiling of the fern leaf when mature. Nutation. These movements are caused due to more growth on one side at one time and greater growth on the opposite side at another time. Such movements are seen in twiners and climbers. Paratonic movements of growth. These are known as tropic movements or tropism. These movements occur in radially symmetrical organs like stem and root. Tropic movements are directional. These are caused due to differential growth on two lateral sides of the organs. The rate of growth on the two sides is affected by light, that is phototropism, gravity, geotropism, water, hydrotropism, chemicals, chemotropism, and Dutch thigmotropism. When the direction of the response is related to the direction of the stimulus, it is known as tropic response or tropism. Tropism occurs due to environmental stimuli of unequal intensity on two sides of the plant organ. Phototropism, also called as heliotropism, the movement induced in plant organs in response to unilateral light is called phototropism. If a potted plant is placed in a wooden box with light coming through an opening, the stem is seen to bend towards that opening. Young stems generally turn towards the light, hence they are called as positively phototropic. Leaves are considered diaphototropic as they turn their upper sides at right angles to the line of light. The positive and negative phototropism shown by the stem and root, respectively, is the result of unequal growth on the illuminated and shaded sides. In case of a stem, growth is more on the shaded side, while in the root, it is more on the illuminated side. Greater growth on the shaded side of the stem is due to more accumulation of oxygen on the shaded side than on the illuminated side. Greater growth on the illuminated side of the root is due to less accumulation of oxygen on the illuminated side than on the shaded side. Geotropism. The orientation of stem and root in response to the force of gravity is called geotropism. Different parts of the plant respond differently to the stimulus of gravity. Primary roots show towards the force of gravity and they are called positively geotropic. The main stem grows away from the gravity and is called as negatively geotropic. Lateral roots they grow obliquely to the force of gravity and are called as plagiotropic. Tertiary roots, horizontal branches and leaves are diageotropic. Geotropism can be demonstrated in the laboratory by an apparatus called kilnostat. Hydrotropism. The movement of plant organs in response to moisture content is called hydrotropism. Thus, roots they grow towards water and are called positively hydrotropic. Chemotropism. The tropic movement of a plant organ in response to chemical stimulus is called chemotropism. An example is growth of the pollen tube towards the ovule is a case of chemotropism. Thigmotropism, it is also known as haptotropism. When the movement is in response to contact or mechanical stimulus, it is called thigmotropism. This type of movement is seen in plants which climb by means of tendrils, for example, pea, sweet pea, etc. Autonomic movement of variation. The lateral leaflets of Desmodium gyrans, that is Indian telegraphic plant, show peculiar rhythmic movements during the day. They move up and down on the rachis through an angle of 180 degrees. Paratonic movements of variation. These are also known as nastic movements. These movements occur in bilaterally symmetrical organs like leaves and petals. Such movements are non-directional. Nastic movements are of the following types. Nyctinastic. Some leaves and flowers open during the day and close in the night. Such movements are also known as sleep movements and are caused by alteration in light. For example, members of Leguminosae compositae, or temperature. Example is flower of crocus and tulip. Thigmonastic or haptonastic. These movements occur due to the stimulus of touch and can be observed in insectivorous plants like Drosera and Dionaea. Seismonastic. The leaves of Mimosa pudica, sensitive plant, droop down rapidly when touched. This shock movement is known as seismonastic and is due to change in the turgidity of the cells at the leaf base.